We are good to go today. So, ride 3 of the Triathlon Australia Zwift Ride Series. How are you, Jace?
I am outstanding, Jace. It's a lovely Sunday morning, and it's pretty cold here in Adelaide today, isn't it?
It's not as cold. I've been up early this week. I've done a few rides myself, and it's been 1 to 2 degrees, Jess. So it's not that cold.
I went for a ride yesterday with some of our ride leaders. With Craig Needham and with Ian Jones. Ian Jones being based in Orange, and he said it was -5, and he was sitting in a beanie and a jacket.
Freezing just thinking
the first 20k.
Oh, jeez. Well, we've got a great ride today. We've got a great lineup of athletes that are joining us. We've got our community as always, Jess. We've got already 200 plus riders registered for today's ride. Again, this is only ride 3. We've had over 1,000 people join us already for these rides. What are we going to expect today, do you reckon?
Oh, look, I think it's going to be great. I think we're focused on the pointy end for the last couple of races today. We're going to have a look around at
around the grounds,
around everybody else.
Beautiful. So we've got previous winners in here, Jess. We've got Cam Napper.
We do. We've got Cam Napper, who is, if you have a look at Cam Napper's Zwift profile, he's done 35,000 kilometres on Zwift. That's a monstrous amount of kilometres.
Yeah, I reckon I've done a quarter of that, Jess.
Yeah.
But no, we've got a good lineup. We've got people joining us left, right and centre. And we've also got another ride that was on today that people have been doing, so they might be jumping over. They had the big freeze ride on, which is for a great cause, Jess.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, we're very excited about that one.
But we do have some cool people joining us. We've got Jonathan Gorlak again. So Jonathan joined us last ride, and Jonathan's profile speaks for himself. He's a para-athlete, obviously. He's had multiple ITU wins with 14, 18 podiums, 28 starts, based in Sydney. He's got a guide, Sam Douglas, who also is a phenomenal athlete himself. And they are currently aiming towards Tokyo. I'm not going to say 2020, I'm going to say Tokyo 2021.
21.
Okay, so they're currently working towards 2021. Just recently, he was first in Devonport, first in Newcastle, third in Tokyo. So look at that profile. He can ride.
He sure can.
We then move on to Emma. So then we've got Emma Jeffcoat. So Emma's only 26, so she's just sort of starting in the career in terms of she is definitely going to be one to watch in Tokyo 2021. She's had 16 wins, she's had 23 podiums, 72 starts, also based out of Sydney. She was first in Japan last year. She was 6th in Mooloolaba this year, which was one of the last races to go. And then we've got 5th in New Plymouth last year. So she's got a career. She's just starting her sort of peak side of this ITU career. And I think Tokyo could be a good chance.
Oh, I think so. That's right.
She's definitely a fish in the water, and that's going to set her up in the long run. We then move on to Charlotte McShane. So Charlotte's 29. She's had 110 starts. So a true professional, true experienced professional. She's had 10 podiums and 2 wins. And her highlights was first in 2017 at Hamburg, third in the grand final at Kutsamol in 2016, second in 2016 Hamburg, and first in the 2013 ITU World Triathlon Grand Final in London in under 23 ranks. She was 9th at the latest Devonport OTU sprint with a tremendous field there. And just her experience, Jess, is awesome to have.
It is. It certainly is. She's an amazing athlete.
And then we go down to Marcel. So Marcel is also that young athlete who is emerging at the moment. 26, based in Melbourne, 79 starts, 1 win. And that win was in 2020 this year at Devonport. So we are 30 seconds away from starting. And oh my God, we are almost there. We've got almost the 200. We've got 200 plus on the ride ready to go.
That's right. 20 seconds to go. Where did that time go, Joe?
Oh, I don't know. I just was too busy talking, I think.
We do love a chat.
But we're about to start. We're going to start with... Who are we starting with, Jess? We're following Emma?
We are following... Actually,
Who do we jump on?
I think it says we're following me. That's not right.
No, that's all right. We'll be able to jump on.
Yeah, that's
right.
So
we got 3, 2, and Craig has jumped on as well, so we are going to jump on.
We're on Emma Jeffcoat at the moment. Craig Needham. So we're on our ride leader, Triathlon Australia ride leader, Craig Needham at the moment, who is going to roll the bunch out. He's just signalled to everyone, please roll out at about 1.5 watts per kilogram, which is a nice, easy roll out. Nothing silly off the front right now.
So we're just jumping around the bunch to start with. And we're going to just give a couple of shout outs. So we've got R Waterhouse joining us. So welcome R Waterhouse. We've got G Davenport. And this is a funny name. M Energizer. M Energizer.
That's right.
So he's got a character name, it looks like, Jess. So you know a bit about Energizer.
We do. Now, we'll also talk about AHDR. Now, that stands for Aussie Hump Day Ride, which is the biggest Australian midweek Zwift ride of the calendar. It's absolutely massive. Giant Cycles did a big article about it this week. It gets sort of 600 plus at each ride. It's absolutely amazing. Started by a bloke called Tim Searle. Look, it's just gathering steam week by week by week. And Mr. Energizer, between Mr. Energizer and Cam Napper, who are both on today's ride, they generally win a fair stack of them.
So we've got a lot of people on this ride, Jess, that have done multiple thousand miles on Zwift, which obviously during this time is great. And the experience comes out in lap 3, because obviously lap 3, we like to say, test your legs if you want to test your legs. And that's when we get to see who wants to go.
That's right.
And so we're going to jump on this superstar. So Lauren Parker.
Oh, absolutely.
So Lauren Parker is also an Aussie athlete. So she is also a para-athlete. And if you don't know her name, I suggest looking her up, because her career speaks for herself already. She's still, I'll class, new into our sport. And as you can see, her name, she's on the hand cycle. So as an athlete, she obviously has got a non-ability to use her legs. So she swims with her arms, rides with her arms, and then runs with her arms.
That's absolutely phenomenal.
It is amazing to see. I've seen athletes do that now for the last couple of years at these big races. And it is truly remarkable to see what some of these guys can do and how they actually compare. Like last time at Murrayman in Adelaide, Jess, I saw Scott Crowley, who also uses a hand bike ride, a full half Ironman. So he swam, rode and ran using his arms. So awesome to have Lauren on today's ride. So thanks, Lauren, for jumping on. We'll jump on up through the bunch.
As Jay says, you're jumping on there. We've also got a thing called Zwift Power, which is sitting on another screen we can see. And there's a few people that are not sticking to the 1.5 watts per kilo.
No, there's a few people jumping through, which, you know what, for 200 people on the ride, you can expect to see a few people going too fast too early, but we do have an amazing bunch of leaders that will try and control the pace with a few little remarks. But big shout out to Jay Knight from HPT, who HPT is a great company from a great Triathlon Australia coach, Mick Delamont. So Mick's based out of Sydney and HPT is his triathlon business. And Mick is a great coach when it comes to juniors, and he's the New South Wales Development Program Manager. So big shout out to HPT. Who else have we got on here? Just going to jump around, see who we can find. We've got Jay Collier here. So welcome, Jay.
That is Jennifer Collier. She's from Brisbane, I believe. Yeah. And she's riding with her sister today, Fiona Collier. Fiona's dialing all the way in from Tucson, Arizona. So good to see the. Actually, I should say Fiona Coyle, but they're the sisters, and they're riding together via the magic of the internet. So fantastic, both Jennifer and Fiona.
We've got S Wood joining us today. So welcome, S Wood. Who else have we got on the ride today? T Matthews from America. D Dillon, Rockstar.
Oh, we love a good rockstar hand.
Love some of these names that we get to see on these rides, Jess. It's quite cool to see some of the characters. You can sort of make up the person from their name, can't you?
You can, that's right. It's great to see. There's been a lot of Zwift action this weekend. Yesterday we had the Zwift Fondo series. which was split over 4 grades, 4 distances. They had about 1,000 people in that one, Jay. So it's great to see people getting out there. The other thing is really, really exciting, which we see. We had 400 or 350 in our first ride. This week we're down to about 230, which we see is a really, really positive thing. Because what does it say? It says that in some states, some of the quarantines are easing and people are getting out. They're getting out in the outdoors and socially distanced riding with their clubs. That's pretty exciting, Jason.
It definitely is exciting, Jess, and it's one of those things where it's like you got a dog on a leash, and when you let that dog on the leash go, they just got. Like I've seen a couple of friends that I ride with, and they've done some massive rides already this long weekend. They've done 200 plus rides in a day. So people are just experiencing like being outdoors again and enjoying it. Like there's nothing beats riding out on the bike with a great day. And when you've got it, you make the most of it. But when you've got a platform like Zwift to be able to connect yourself with other people in the whole country and the whole world for this time, it's just great to have even 100 plus riders on the ride. So our community is very strong, and that's one thing that Triathlon is quite happy with in terms of our community. It grows quite high, and away we go.
All right, so we're going to have a look at our course now for this ride. Jace, take us through the Watopia flat course for us.
So the Watopia flat course, as it says it's in the name, it hasn't got that much vert. It's very, very flat, it's fast, and it's very interesting. It's basically 12.3 Ks, and you experience the main highlights around Watopia. You see the flats, you see a bit of the desert type stuff, and then you go through the awesome volcano.
Oh, I love that little rise as you just enter the volcano. It kicks off to the right. You go up a little bit of a rise, and if you're on the third lap, I reckon that's the bit where people will make their move. If they're in the race, as we remember, you don't have to race that third lap. You can just pace home with our beacons.
So we've got Jay Cunnings here, and just interested to see, like he's currently sitting at like say 3.4 watts per kilo, which is quite high today. So he's obviously out to have a fun ride, go test his legs. But that's okay. That's what these rides can be done for. So we'll jump back down into the bunch a little bit further, and we'll see Jay Knight here, and we've got a couple of the other leaders around here. But this ride is brought to you to just ride as a bunch, ride together, and then that last lap we can try and test the legs. So we're sitting at about 4.8 Ks into the ride. And we've got a little bit of a gap. So I'm watching it on Zwift Power here, Jess, and we've got a little bit of a gap watching. So it's going to be very, very interesting to see what happens.
Right. So Jay Knight, he's sitting at 2.3 watts per kilo. And look at that heart rate, Jay's 120. So that's a strong rider.
Very strong at the moment.
Because 120 as a heart rate, depending on the person's age, that's a pretty calm heart rate.
Definitely. And looking at Zwift Power, we definitely, like I said, have a big bunch of people riding a little bit faster than what it's set out to be. So we're going to jump back. So we're just going to jump to a few people, see if we can get back into our main bunch so that we can give a few shout outs. What do you reckon?
That's right.
So we're on A. Baker at the moment, who's sitting nicely in that pack. We've got Michelle Cooper on. Let's see if we can find Michelle. So we'll jump back into it. Just try and swing through.
Here we are. Now we're riding with Michelle Cooper. No heart rate monitor today.
But she's sitting at a high cadence, Jess. She's at the 96 RPM, which I'm spotting a bit of a trend. When we're in these first two laps, I see a lot of the female athletes have a higher cadence to the male athletes that show cadence. So
very clever.
It comes down to a few factors with cadence. It comes down to obviously leg length. It comes down to comfort factor, and also a bit of a strength barrier as well. But Michelle's a tremendous rider, and she's probably ridden already 100 Ks. But it's also, as a coach myself, I like to see little things like that, so that when I talk to my athletes, to see trends that work for different athletes and then experiment. Because it's about testing things with athletes, see what works for one athlete. Might not work for the other, but it's good to see what we can do.
That's right. So we're going over the dirt section. You think that's just graphics? It's actually not. Zwift is very clever. So when you go over those dirt sections, or in fact over this boardwalk section, you'll find the rolling resistance is quite a bit higher. And so while you might have been sitting previously at around 38 or something kilometers an hour, all of a sudden you're back to 33 or whatever. It slows you down. So very, very clever from Zwift. As we just saw a message from Michelle Cooper. She's saying trying to keep up. So she's giving a little bit of a message to everybody saying, come on guys and girls, first lap is supposed to be a bit of a rollout.
Yes, there is a bit of a split in today's bunch. So we've got a few off the front that are putting the watts down, let's say. Then we've got a good split in the bunch of about, say, 15 athletes that are riding in packs of 5s. And then we've got the main heart of the bunch. So we're going to stick with the main heart of the bunch today.
Yep.
We're going to probably jump on, say, Cam Napper again, just to sort of, because he's, from what I can see on Zwift Power, sitting in that bunch next to Craig. As you can see, that yellow beacon with Craig. And we've also got him on the Tron bike today. So he's showing some bling. It'd be interesting to see how many people have Trons on this ride, because that will obviously give that sort of description of how many times they use Zwift.
That's right. I saw someone with a pretty colourful disc wheel. You've got to get up to a particular points or particular amount of kilometres covered to start getting things like those disc wheels activated. So you can see that rider has clearly logged a fair few Ks on Zwift.
Now, speaking of Zwift, there's multiple ways that you can use Zwift. You can use a trainer, or you can use rollers. Have you done any? Have you done the rollers?
I've never done rollers on Zwift. I've done a lot of rollers, but never on Zwift. I think it's a brave person that does rollers.
So it'd be interesting. We know that Robbie Wallace from Triathlon Victoria last time we rode, was on rollers. So it'd be very interesting today to see if he's on rollers today and see if he didn't like it last time and he goes back to the trainer so that he can just get into that lead bunch today, Robbie. Big shout out to you. Big shout out to also Tri Vic and Triathlon South Australia. On Monday this past week, did a bit of a Q&A or a bit of a workshop with Brad Bear, who's a physio in Queensland. And we had 200 people just registered for that workshop.
That's incredible.
So Brad had an awesome speech about bone stress fractures and how to manage building the load. Obviously, in South Australia, we had a previous workshop around load management, about running and shoe selection. But Brad sort of tipped it off with a bit more on terms of dealing with bone stress and how to cope with it and signs and symptoms to look for. And the 200 and plus people listened to it and got some great knowledge. I was on the call, and Brad's awesome. So if you do not follow Brad and his podcast, look him up, follow him, because he's got some great knowledge there. And that's the beauty about our community, Jess, is that so many people know it. Like, you can just access so much knowledge in our community.
That's right. As one of our highlighted athletes for today, Emma Jeffcoat. If you've got any spare time, jump onto WitsUp and have a listen to the latest WitsUp podcast. Where Steph and Emma speak about Emma's journey in triathlon and some of her experiences. It's an absolutely fantastic listen. I'm not going to spoil it for you, but what we'd say is jump on WitsUp and have a listen to Emma's story.
So, last ride, Jess, we're following that lead bunch for that last lap. And this gentleman that we're watching right now, David Mainwaring, decided to put the hammer down a little bit too early, we'll call it.
I think he did a boost. He used his boost.
He used his boost quite a little bit early, but got up to like 11 to 12 watts per kilo.
Yeah.
And just put the hammer down. But unfortunately, he had the likes of Cam Nappers and a couple of other riders that stuck on his wheel and took it at the end. So it's going to be very interesting to see if David wants to come out and take this one today, because
very clever.
He was very clever last time, but I think he needs to just wait a little bit longer and then just go for it.
Yeah, I'm going to say my absolute highlight of ride number 2 was seeing the tactics of Craig Crowe Alexander, who started first 2 laps on a time trial bike. So we're saying, stuff you guys, you're not drafting off me. and then did a sneaky on lap 3 and changed to a road bike. Now, I was a bit flabbergasted by that, and so yesterday I was in a ride with a bunch of people, including ride leader Craig Needham, and he tried it. So he tried to change from a road bike to a mountain bike mid-ride. It's not as easy as you think. You actually have to stop pedaling for 3-4 seconds, then go into your garage, quickly do it, and then catch back up. You lose 10 seconds. And it's amazing that he managed to stick in that bunch while basically not pedaling for 10 seconds. What a machine.
So I've jumped on here to Oscar Riley. So Oscar Riley is a young athlete from Victoria. And if you look at him, Jess, look at his RPM, 68 cadence.
Cruising.
So he's just nice, easy, big gear, just spinning the legs over, sitting in the bunch. Obviously, we've got drafting on today's ride, but he's shown in previous rides that he can stay up there with some of the big boys. So hopefully he's up for another big one today.
That's right. Oscar was coached by Matt Tippett from ETPA in Victoria. So big shout out to those guys. As we see, Craig Needham is giving everybody the guidance and the messages through the Zwift companion app. We'll call in and see Craig. We'll call in and speak to Craig a little bit earlier, but we've got a camera set up. And last week we saw Craig in wearing some kind of headwear. Let's see what he's looking at today. He's wearing a mouse.
Still in that. Oh, Craig.
He's an interesting bloke.
He's in for a bit of punishment today, isn't he? Craig's based in Cairns, and I'm a bit upset, Jess. There's a reason why I'm upset today.
Ah, yes. Talk about it.
And there'll probably be a few other people that are on today's ride that would be upset. Today should have been Cairns Ironman, Jess. So I should have been swimming 3.8 Ks, riding 180 Ks, and running 42.2 Ks. So as a triathlete, other triathletes will know that sort of pain that you feel when you should have had a race happen or you should be racing and you're not. But you know what? I've still got the community around me, and we've got things like this that sort of bring you back down and be like, yeah, everyone's going through it, everyone's doing it, and we're just lucky that we have this stuff to get to.
So we're seeing Michelle Cooper's even said, yeah, she should have been in Cairns right now too. But big kudos to Michelle because she's entered into the September one. I think that's right, Michelle, which is the rescheduled event for Cairns. So very, very excited to see people entering these events that we hope will go ahead as mass gatherings start to ease.
Yeah, and like you said, Jess, it's interesting. It's almost at that time where we can start to see a trend of these restrictions easing and a light in the tunnel of events happening. Just in SA alone, we're sitting in a great spot these last couple of months, and government have been easing restrictions, and we're almost seeing possible our duathlon series very, very shortly.
That's right. It was something that was really good. It was touched on in the Triathlon Australia Q&A that was on Thursday night. Miles and Michelle and Tim Harradine were talking about that. So as we see, restrictions are being eased. Sanctioning is now being event sanctioning is now being transferred back to each state sanctioning officer, and then events will be sanctioned if they comply with the relevant state legislation. So probably Western Australia might be the first cab off the rank for some local events. So look, it's very, very exciting. We're hopefully on our way out. So it's there's a light at the end of the tunnel.
I mean, we're seeing other sports get the green light to create a date, and trust me, I know that we are working on getting dates locked in. And I know that states have got dates already locked in, and we're just waiting for that green light. And once we get that green light, guys, we'll be the first to let everyone know what you can expect for this upcoming season.
That's right.
So we're back on Craig Needham, who's nice and cruising, trying to command the crew. He's got some of the big hitters around him, so the big hitters are riding quite nicely today, and they're just sticking in that main bunch, sticking at that 1.5 or 2.5 watts per kilo max, and really just cruising, because as you can see, we've got Craig on 2 watts per kilo. He's got a slightly higher cadence at 91. And yeah, so they're in that cruise phase. We're about to hit end of lap 1. They're 11.2 Ks. So we may call into Craig in the next 5 minutes or so before they start lap 3, and he has to wind people back in.
That's right.
Jess, you want to follow someone? Who are we
Yeah,
following?
so I just saw their name just pop up. So Helen Davenport from Alice Springs. So you think that there's no triathlon in Alice Springs? Yeah, there is. Great work, Helen. Helen, of course, featuring in some of our YouTube footage, riding a Gen 1 kicker, which is got a bit of a whine to it, but let's hope we can get some oil into it.
So we're going to jump back up onto the bunch. Maybe jump on him. Let's watch him for a little bit. So we're going to jump on up the bunch, and we're going to follow Andrew Robinson, who seems to be right in the heart of it, riding in the bunch. So Andrew, big shout out to you, Andrew, Triathlon South Australia president, who's done a phenomenal job during this time, because obviously yourself and him, Jess, have been on the phone managing this current situation, making sure that we've got the right communication out to our members here in South Australia. But big shout out to you this Sunday morning, Andrew. Who else have we got on this ride that we can go? Big shout out. We've got Miles, welcome. M. Allen.
I just thought I saw Nigel Fanning in there as well. Nigel being a Tri Victoria board member. So Nigel, thanks for all of your volunteer contributions. I think that's something that we don't pay enough attention to is to thanking all of our volunteers around the country, whether it be technical officials, people holding a cup, people in board positions. Look, without our volunteers, we know that our sport would be a very, very different landscape. So big shout out to all our volunteers.
I've just been given a few ride-ons from you, Jess, to a couple of our riders today to say thank you for riding. We're going to jump on Cam Napper again, because I have a feeling he's going to be in the heat of it later on in the track, and it's good to just sit in the bunch so that we can get a good perspective of who's on today's ride. And speaking of which, I'm here with you right now, Jess, and I've just received a text message from my wife. She's obviously listening to me on YouTube, and she said, stop whinging about Cairns, because I should be actually at the pool in Cairns relaxing. So there you go. Everyone in my whole family's hurting about not being away. But over that, who else have we got on today? We've got Gavin from My Ride. Oh, he's jumped up the bunch quickly. So Gavin from My Ride Salisbury, Jess. So he's a local South Australian triathlete, we'll call him. He's based in South Australia.
Yeah, that's right. So he runs a weekly ride. So huge shout out to Gavin. Look, it's we got is Macca the Macca. That's a little text message from Craig Needham. He's saying that maybe Mac is in the group. If he is, we've missed him.
I'm just going to refresh with power and just see what happens. And if he is, welcome. So we've got... Who have we got? Macca. Let's have a look. I'm just doing a bit of reconnaissance here. It could be, Jess. Could very much be
Macca. So it could be coming under a ghost. The other one we saw was Matt Black, and we know that Matt Black sometimes crops up in events, which is actually former pro Matty White. So we don't know if it's Matty White or if it is a rider by the name of Matt Black. So if it's if there is someone called Matt Black, legitimately, kudos to you.
So we're sitting at 13.7, so they've done one full lap. We're about to, we're almost, say, 2Ks into lap 2, and it seems to be nice and controlled in this main bunch. We've got a few people out in front, which is fine, but this main bunch has got all the big hitters in it. We've got Cam Napper, Brianna Hutchins, Casey Mainwright, David Mainwaring, Gavin My Ride Salisbury, Heather Bray, Melissa Perro, Mr. Energizer. They're all here, Jess. And if you look at these rankings on Zwift Power, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be very interesting. So
we see Frank McShane there as well. That's where is he? There, I think we saw him there. So that's Charlotte's dad. Good work, Frank, for being.
So Charlotte's obviously said, "Dad, you're going to join me on today's ride."
That's right.
Right, let's see who else we can give a shout out to that we can sort of mention.
Interesting view. So there's a bit of a rumour at the moment going around. We saw it on Cycling News yesterday that possibly they're going to be doing a virtual Tour de France over 3 weekends on Zwift. Craig, Jace, have you heard anything about that?
No.
Yeah, that's right. So check out cycling news at the moment. It was either cycling news or cycling tips. I can't remember, but there is talk of having a virtual Tour de France at the moment. There is actually a rescheduled Tour de France for late August, and they're also working on the women's Tour de France. We really hope we get some clarity around the women's Tour de France as soon as possible. So
wow.
Yes,
that's very interesting news, because overnight I woke up this morning and I saw on Facebook that Team Ineos did another race against each other. So Team Ineos had a Zwift race against each other, and they all logged in and they all did a ride. And guess who came up out on top again?
Oh, wasn't Freemy, was it?
No, Rowan Dennis.
Oh.
So he's now won 2 rides, 2 competitive rides against the Team Ineos guys. So he's a local SA athlete, made it quite big, and now gone on to Team Ineos, and he is punching his weight with these virtual rides that he's having with his new team, trying to gain respect, do we say?
I don't know. He's a competitive athlete, so he probably wants to do his best every time he gets out there.
All right, Jess. So this is that ... Macca. Now, looking 175 watts, 88 RPM. I'm trying to get a side view of him, and then we can sort of gauge what sort of bike he's on, and we could probably make that call whether it is actually Chris McCormack.
Yeah, we could. So we're just going to see if Craig Needham is available for a chat. Craig, are you there with us, mate?
Yes, I am, Jesse. How are you guys?
We are outstanding, buddy. So how's the ride going? You're 15 Ks in. Tell us how the feeling is in the pack.
Oh, it's going great, actually. We had a few flyers off the front initially, and a few people chasing after them, thinking that they were part of our group. But we let those flyers go, and it's looking tight, like a big Nutella and peanut butter donut.
So that's right. So there's a Facebook forum called Zwift Oz, where you've been quite active in promoting we see you just typing something out. You've been promoting the award, which is a what was it? What did you say? A peanut butter donut?
The peanut butter and Nutella donut award, the virtual trophy, and being wrestled between 2 riders at the moment, Mr. Energizer and Cam Napa, the last couple of rides. So we're going to see what the leg test of that. Who's going to wrestle that out today?
I don't know about you, but I reckon that sounds disgusting.
Don't knock it till you try it, that's what I say.
So, Craig, let me know, what has got more airflow, the mouse hat or the bear hat? Because last time we were riding, you were in the bear hat. This time you're in the mouse hat. Which has got better airflow?
Definitely the bear hat, Jason. You know, look, Mickey Mouse only got 2 tiny eye holes, and I've got it tied up at the back of my head. And it feels like one of those power breathers. Remember those from like the 90s? Put it in your mouth and you try and breathe. That's exactly what it is. So I'm trying to use that to improve my top-end fitness at the moment.
That's right. And so we just heard that today was supposed to be the day of Ironman Cairns. You're based in Cairns. And so we're hearing that Cairns is rescheduled for September. You think there's going to be a few locals in the Ironman Cairns this year?
Look, I hope we get a good event going. As usual, with the weather up here on Ironman weekend, it rained yesterday and it's beautiful today. So, you know, all the ingredients were there. We just needed someone to come and bake the Ironman pie. But I hope so. You know, we need these borders to go down when the time comes. And look, hopefully we can put a good event together. It's a beautiful place up here. I'd encourage everyone to jump on a plane and come up. And the weather's beautiful, nice and warm. I think it's 20 degrees overnight and 26 during the day. So I don't know what it's like down there in Adelaide, but it's probably not that warm.
Mate, it's 30 degrees today. It's boiling, and
you liar.
I'm a little bit lying.
I think that's one of the really great things about our sport, Craig, is the ability to be able to go to event destinations, whether that be Cairns or whether that be, the Julia Creek Dirt and Dust Festival or down in Albany or wherever you want to go. It's really fantastic to see, isn't it? It
is indeed. Look, that's a wonderful thing about our sport. You can host it wherever you need to. like I just put on the chat then, Darwin Tri Club are holding their first event next weekend, and lovely Lake Alex, which if you've been up to Darwin, you'll know quite well. But look, as all the events roll on around the country, just encourage everyone to get involved with your local club, become a member, and let's get this sport back to where it should be.
That's right. In fact, mentioning Darwin, we heard during the week that the Arafura Games, which was scheduled for later on this year, has been cancelled because, as we know, it takes somewhere between 6 and 9 months to organise a major festival like the Arafura Games. Triathlon's part of that. Triathlon hasn't been part of the Arafura Games for many years, so we will see that again when that comes around, I believe in 2022. So chalk that one up in your diary, 2022, Darwin.
Look, Arafura Games is wonderful. It's this big multicultural sort of meet-up from all over Southeast Asia. I did it years ago. And, there's people from Singapore, Malaysia, the Philippines. It's just wonderful. They have a street parade. Yeah, it's just wonderful to be on the start line with people from all over, Oceania almost.
And even like you said, Craig, all these big events in Australia that we have access to, we're also still, not for next year, but 2022, the Townsville Multisport World Champs, which is obviously top-end Queensland again. That's going to be something that people are going to be highlighting and something to aim for in these next couple of this next year, really. And that's going to be another sort of boost and sort of bonus to get back into the sport and build these events up and support local events, just so that we can have those qualification races in Australia, so that we can see as many people in that green and gold uniform, which is the beauty about our sport.
That would be absolutely fantastic. 2022. I hope, everything, our whole economy, our sport will be completely back to where it was. And maybe we'll be better off, maybe we'll appreciate the sense of community that our sport provides a little bit more now we've had it sort of temporarily removed.
And mate, and I just want to harp on that word that you just said, community. And I said it multiple times this morning, just the community that these rides have created. Like, I'm seeing so many names that have done every single one of our rides, and it's so great to see them band on and jump on and support us and come together as a big family, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. And again, I think we've talked about this before, but it's wonderful that technology has bridged that sort of gap of latitude and longitude in these crazy times, and we're all still able to hold on to that community and make it through to the other side. So look, thank you to everyone who's put this on, and we've got another ride to go in 2 weeks, and I hope to see everyone again there,
Exactly. And so we're basically at the halfway point of today's ride, right? Have you got any tips for today? Who's your guest? So we've got Mainwaring, who did that sprint a little bit too early, and Cam got him last time. Have you got any tips? You've seen the start list.
Definitely. This is going to be close here. There's a couple of people in the running. As was taken about Mr. E, Mr. Energizer, and Cam Napa. Now, they've already both ridden this morning, but so has David. I think David Mainwaring. Now, it'll be interesting to see. I always love seeing triathletes take it to the Zwift Kings, but look, if it's going to go close, who wants the donut more? Cam or Mr. E in my book?
Now, I've got one final question for you before we let you go and get back to messaging the group. And it talks about your personal stress level. So tell us how this morning went when, with 10 minutes to go before the start of our event, you had a complete technical failure and your smart trainer was unable to connect to Zwift. How are you feeling then?
Well, look, I was in complete zen and control, as you'd expect, Jesse. It didn't faze me at all. No, not lightly.
Yeah, we don't believe you.
No, look, with these things, electric computers have glitches all the time. Best way to turn everything off and turn everything back on again. And 9 times out of 10, that'll fix your issue.
My rule is hit it and then it will work. But one more. Sorry, Jesse said he had one more question. Oh, I've got one more. So ride 4 is a time trial. What are you going to give us? Like, I've seen a bear hat. I've seen the mouse hat. What's next? Or is it going to be a complete surprise?
I've got to keep you in suspense. I love giving people a surprise. They may not like receiving it, but you just have to wait and see. It's certainly going to be something more aerodynamic.
You tried, he gave you nothing. Look, Craig, thank you for chatting to us this morning. Go back to the group and we'll catch up with you soon.
All right, thanks, boys. Great job.
Thanks, Craig. All right, guys, you heard it there. Craig Needham, our Tri Australia ride leader. And it's quite funny. He had a few technical issues, which can happen. But that's technology. But
it sounds like Michelle Cooper was having the same problem. She just gave a little message there as well. It's certainly the other one. I think events. Sometimes you can join late, but the one that sometimes really plays you is the meetup.
Yes. Meetups you can't join in late, so you've got to be there on the dot. Events you can join, say 5 or 10 minutes late and jump on, but with a meetup where you're joining your group of friends, that's where you've got to be there on time. So my suggestion is 20 minutes earlier, just spin the legs over.
That's right. But what I would say, Jace, is that Meetups is an incredibly powerful tool for your local club. So we know that that sometimes getting to the midweek early morning ride is hard. So clubs certainly have a look at the meetup function as a way of keeping your communities connected through the virtual way.
Definitely, and that's how we sort of started from a community. Like I did a few meetups with the local club here, Adelaide Triathlon Club, and then I noticed a couple of other clubs doing some meetups and really jumping on the bandwagon of Zwift. And then myself and you, Jess, we created a bit of a Tri-SA meetup where we were getting 100 plus riders join us for multiple meetups. So there was a bit of a test that we sort of ran, but now that you can have a meetup of 100 people, yeah, that's like, it's perfect.
It is, that's right. So as we see, Craig Needham is just saying that you need to start behind him for your results to count. So that's where we're saying everybody bunch back up, bunch up with the beacon. You can see the beacon is the yellow symbol in the sky. So everybody bunch up behind Craig Needham, our leader, because the third lap is starting in 5 minutes. Now remember, you don't have to hammer it home in the third lap if you don't want to. You can put the gas down if you want to, or you can just pace home. It's up to you.
So I have to say, Jess, I'm quite impressed with this bunch today. So you got 6 or so riders out in front that are just sitting at 3 watts per kilo the whole ride. So they've just come in and gone. But then realistically, everyone's in the bunch.
Fantastic to see.
So it's going to be really, really interesting to see this hot lap come. We're coming around the volcano. This is that little elevation when you come around the volcano. So this is that sort of interesting time in lap 3 where they hit this stretch where if you're pushing too hard early on in lap 3, you're going to struggle. You're going to struggle, let's be honest. But as you can see, we're following Cam Napper here. We've got a big bunch around him, and they're all with that yellow beacon. So we're about 3K to go before we hit lap 3, where Craig goes, go, go, go. So we're just following here, and Craig Napper is sitting at 100 watts per kilo. So he is really in the draft. He is cruising. He's at 74 RPM, 120 beats. So he's not really pedaling at the moment. He's just cruising. So he's just refreshing back, getting ready to go. And I would say that he will be one to jump.
Riding with the cap. I upgraded some of my apparel in the game yesterday, which was very exciting. It's amazing little things that keep you entertained in the game. But as we see, that a lot of people are riding with some fancy wheels, so they've obviously accumulated enough kilometres in Zwift to be able to go and purchase some wheels. Of course, when we say purchase, we don't mean with real money. We mean with in-game currency, and currency being kilometres.
Yeah. Speaking of new wheels, I've been a bit jealous. A couple of my mates have upgraded their actual wheels, so I'm trying to get some points and trying to see if I can do an upgrade very soon, Jess. I've got to also upgrade my bike on Zwift. I've got a good road bike on Zwift, but I reckon it's time to upgrade the TT because, like I said, Ride 4 is a time trial, Jess. Are we going to try and ride and commentate at the same time? Or what do you think is going to happen?
I'm keen to ride. The thing about time trials is, Jace, and I think I might actually steal this quote from Stuart O'Grady, where he says, even in a time trial, even if you're going easy, it still hurts.
That is quite true. That is definitely
85,
true.
90% on a time trial is still 85, 90%. You still can't really talk that much.
No, but we're going to work on something interesting for Ride 4, guys. So stay with us. Stay tuned for that one. And it'll be interesting to see, we want to do a big shout out of all our riders from Triathlon Australia today. So Jonathan Gorlak, Charlotte McShane, Emma Jeffcott, Marcel Walkington, Lauren Parker. Those 5 riders that have jumped on the series ride for today.
Justin Godfrey, there's another para-athlete. Great
Another one.
Justin.
I missed that name. Sorry, Justin. But big shout out to you guys for joining our community for today's ride before we hit lap 3. So they're at 23 Ks. They're going to jump into the city and then lap 3 starts. But big shout out to those guys. And I can't wait to see who's going to ride with us ride 4.
Yeah, that's right. We hope to see everyone. And so they can say, well, look, we've done 3 rides. We've got a little bit fitter. Now we can test our legs and see what event number 4 looks like. Because, make no mistake, event 4 is a time trial.
It is a time trial, and I'm going to work as hard as I can to get some of the big hitters in so that everyone can see where they're at and sort of see what's the difference and what they can do. But big shout out to all the coaches in Australia that have worked with their athletes to keep them involved into the sport, in the community, keep them motivated. It is so hard to stay motivated during these times, but coaches have done a tremendous job keeping everyone involved in our sport.
That's right. That's a really, really good thing to point out. So to all of the coaches around the country, thank you. We know that the last few months have been exceptionally tough, and we know that you're going to help us lead the sport out of this period. So 2 weeks to go until our time trial. So while we say there's no point in cram training,
yes.
If you had 2 weeks of training left to go as an accredited coach, Jace, what would be your recommendation?
Keep it simple. Simple works best.
No, I want a magic pill. What do you?
Don't change
right.
anything.
Yeah.
There's nothing going to change in 2 weeks' time. Listen to your coach. Do the smart things. So we're almost at 25k. So we're just going to drop down this little decline, which isn't a big one. So you can pick up a bit of speed, especially in lap 3. And this is where David Mainwaring, that last ride, tried to win it. But he had too many people jump on him. So they're about to get the words go, 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 go from Craig.
So be brave for as soon as you pass over lap 3, to be brave for someone to go right on the line. Are you saying that's what David Mainwaring did in our last event?
A little bit.
Yeah.
But
what I remember is Aaron Royal, as soon as it was go, he went up to about 500 watts pretty much straight away. Basically,
and it's going to be interesting to see what the trend is and if I have to jump very, very quickly to get onto that lead bunch. So we're at 24.9. They're about to go under the arch, as you can see on the screen. There's the arch.
We're about to see Craig say it.
So I'm going to make sure
Go. There it is. We love seeing those 3 words.
And if you look at this view, Jess, you can see the yellow beacon and now everyone going past him. So everyone has listened. And we've got Cam Napper, who is getting into that lead bunch. So we're going to be able to be in that lead bunch. So we've got about 7 athletes here. We've got a couple falling off. We've got a few boosts coming up. So we've got a few people with aero boosts, lightweight boosts. And away we go, Jess. We are in the thick of it.
That's right. I've just sent a little message to the group. It's one thing we love with the Zwift companion app. You can, if you're proficient at writing and texting, then there is that function. The other thing you can do is if you've got a Bluetooth keyboard, then you can use one of those, and that makes typing a little bit easier. But typing at 330 or 360 watts, which is what we're seeing from Cam Napper, that's kind of hard to do. Oscar Riley sitting right behind Cam.
So it looks like we've got a bunch of 10, roughly, riders riding, and then we've got a few people just off. So it'll be interesting to see if they can stay on. We've got C. Smith, who's an SA athlete. He's the father of Alex Smith, who's part of our development program. So that's Colin Smith. We've got Oscar Riley, like you mentioned. We've got M. Parrow in this lead bunch. We've got N. North. David Mainwaring's in this lead bunch, Jess. So Jonathan Gorlak has jumped into this bunch as well. So one of our Australia riders. So
So we see Reed Waterhouse, which is that I'm jumping on the party wagon where they're serving drinks. So that's right. So, there's some people who just want to pace home and not bust their legs open too much, which is great.
So I've jumped onto Jonathan Gorlak, who's one of our para-athletes and joining us for today's ride. So he's jumped onto the heart of this train. So as you can see from this view, Jess, we've got a group of about 10 riders just behind him, but this is our lead bunch.
I just want to focus on one little metric there. They're doing 54 kilometres an hour.
Yeah,
that's
so
pretty quick.
They're motoring. So if you look at Jonathan's RPM, he's over the 100. So he's really got a high cadence at the moment, trying to keep up. But high cadence... There's different measures that you got to manage while you're riding at a higher cadence. Obviously, your heart rate spikes because you're moving a lot faster. But is it efficient? But again, it comes down to that individual. Sometimes it can be inefficient for someone, but it might not be efficient for you. So working with your coach, working with someone that does your bike fit is a great idea to get a better idea of what cadence works for you. Also, your gearing. What gearing do you have on your bike?
That's exactly right. And that's certainly something that is really, really important in things like criterium racing. We see something that's become very popular at the moment is compact gearing, where you see on your front chain rings you might have, say, a 50 tooth big chain ring and 34 tooth small chain ring. And so if you're running like a 50 and a 12 on the back, you might find that you're just unable to spin out to keep up with someone that's riding with, say, a 53 12.
Definitely. And we've got Marcel Walkington in there. So as you can see, there is an orange jersey, Jess, mixing in the bunch. So Marcel is a Zwift ambassador, hence why he's in a different jersey. So if you do notice that the orange jersey, yes, he is part of today's ride with us. That's Marcel Walkington, Triathlon Australia athlete, who is a Zwift ambassador, hence why he's in the orange jersey. But I'm just looking at some of these numbers. Some of these guys, Jess, are holding 4 to 4.5, even sometimes 5 watts per kilo.
That's right. It's interesting to see. We've switched from Jonathan Gerlach to Cam Napper. And so we saw Jonathan. He's sitting in that group, and he had a heart rate of 173, which is well, that's threshold. I would say that's his. Yeah. That's right on his aerobic threshold. And then we jump back to Cam Napper, and he's sitting at 155.
But again, that could be a session that Jonathan could be doing. He could be doing a high cadence ride session. So that's why his heart rate would be higher, because he's got a higher cadence. Whereas Cam now has jumped up to 93 cadence. So they're just climbing a little bit. So 3% gradient just out of the tunnel onto the flats again. So hence why Cam probably jumped up a bigger cadence. But realistically, Jess, there's about 15 athletes here that are going to push it all the way to lap 3. So let's see who else we can jump on. Let's jump on David Mainwaring. Let's see what he's doing. So David's sitting at 90 RPM. He's sitting at the back of this bunch. Is that a tactic, Jess?
It could be.
So there's about, as you can see as this screenshot pans through, there's about 15 riders, 2 just off. But we've got David and we've got Jonathan Gorlach and we've got also Marcel Walkington there. It's going to be very, very tight. And we've got David sitting at just under 5 watts per kilo in this flat. And David, on his stats on Zwift Power, he's an A+ grade rider. He can ride. And AHDR, Jess, is obviously a team through Zwift, because just like cycling in real life, there's teams, but Zwift have also created that sort of be able to create your own team on Zwift to work together for some of these bigger Zwift events like your Fondos, your events. So, you know.
That's right. As we said before, AHDR, Aussie Hump Day Ride. So that's great. And we see Craig Needham. He's saying, great work here, Beacon Bunch. So while we see this front pack of 15 or so riders coming together, what we see is there's a big bunch of people that are choosing to pace home with Craig, which is fantastic. So people getting the best ride that they can out of this morning.
So we're going to stick around here, Jess. We're going to stay up. And so if you look at what David's at, he's at 4.7 watts per kilo, still sitting up quite high in that watts per kilo. So again, like we've noticed, this lap 3 isn't a cruise home for these athletes. No, they like to push the pedal, they like to take it to the line. And even here, if you can see this group, there's a bit of a split. So with Zwift, it's hard to make that gap up. So he's got to be very careful here, because he's on that edge of not making that bunch. So he's got to really
Yeah.
Bridge that gap to get up to that bunch. Otherwise, he's not going to get any drafting benefits.
Now, Jace, we saw it just before. It's not on this camera angle now, but we just saw we saw the radio tower. Now that is a fantastic climb if you're in Zwift and you're looking for a ride. Then select one called Epic KOM. And it's a great ride. It takes you on this steady climb, and if you're doing it as part of the group, you think that you're reaching the top because you see the finish arch, and so you can be fooled into putting a bit of gas into it, and then after you cross that supposed finish line, you turn to the left, and the road goes straight for the sky up to the radio tower. So I've been fooled by that one.
And as you can see, Jess, Craig's obviously cruising home because can you read some of these comments he's putting here?
That's right. We're chilling with lattes here. That's what he's saying.
So he's in a happy place at the moment. He's just cruising back with the bunch, not pushing the watts at all, but he's loving the vision up top because he's using the Zwift companion app to follow him, I'm guessing.
Yeah. So that's the other thing is remember everybody to give people the thumbs up, to give them the ride on. The ride on actually, if the more ride ons they give, the more points that you accumulate in Zwift, and the more points you accumulate in Zwift, the more cool stuff you can get. Which you mentioned it just before, but I got myself a new TT frame on Zwift yesterday. I got myself the Specialized Shiv.
Oh, nice, Jess. Nice. Yeah, I bought an S-Works Tarmac on Zwift, so it's actually nice and quick, I reckon. I find that quicker than the Zwift TT bike at the moment, but I'm saving up. I'm almost at level 15. Yes, I'm only on level 15, but I'm quite happy with my level 15 status at the moment.
I think there's a pretty good Specialized e-bike that you can get in real life that I want.
But as you can see here, we've got a little bit of a split in this lead bunch. So we've got Cam and North, B Hoshki, just sort of pushing it a little bit more now. So they're sort of creating a gap in this ride, trying to see what can happen. So they're sitting at 32 kilometres in. We know it's 37k ride, Jess. So they're 5k's from home, sitting at 54k an hour. They're coming down this little from Italian Village, and then they're going to start heading their way towards the volcano.
That's right. So 48 kilometres an hour, 5k. What's that going to take? It's going to take somewhere around the 7-minute mark. So 7 minutes of pain. I think that's what they're talking about. They're in the hurt locker.
Exactly. So we've got Napa, Mainwaring together. We've got who else? N North in this bunch. We've got Jay Howe, who's sitting at 5.8 watts per kilo. Now, I've seen Jay Howe's name and N North's name in these lead bunches in a previous ride. So we've got some top riders here. We've got someone else just jumping on from Trivelo. So welcome. So we've got about 6 athletes in the mix at the moment, Jess, and they're all sitting at about 4+ watts per kilo. So
was that Jennifer Collier is also in that group as well?
Yeah, so she's just on the edge of that group as well. So we've got some great riders here. It's going to be interesting. And they're catching these guys that went off too early at the start, not listening to the 2 to 2.5 watts per kilo. So they're already, say, they were a minute behind those bunches, but now they're only 6 seconds or so behind.
So the bunch is charging.
The bunch is charging. This group is working really well. As we've mentioned previous rides, Jess, you can get drafting benefits in Zwift if you have a smart trainer. So I guarantee you that some of these guys in this lead bunch will be taking in the rest when they can, getting that draft benefit as they reach this volcano, because we know in about half a k's time they're going to be hitting that little undulation up the volcano. That's right. And that's where it hurts.
That's right, as they just hook to the right and then the road goes up. It's not much, it's only about a 3% incline, but that is enough to split it, and you can have a little bit of a mini break during that.
Exactly. So as I can see, we've got 7 riders now in this bunch, and the big hitters are there. The one name I didn't see is Mr. Energizer, who was Craig's tip.
Ah.
So I don't see Mr. Energizer in this lead bunch. I think he's back in having a latte ride with Craig, but that's okay.
But Craig's gone, he's almost running a bit of a quiz for everybody else back here. He's gone, what does Tempus Fugit mean? Is it Latin?
I have no idea, but Craig's more experienced with Zwift than me, so he's got the answer.
We go cogito ergo sum, which means I think, therefore I am.
But like we've said previous, Jess, Ride 4 is the time trial and Tempest Future is the course, which is 17 Ks. 17 Ks of hurt. So it's just under that sprint distance triathlon on the bike.
You say hurt, I say excellence. 70 kilos of excellence.
No, I say hurt. Like we've mentioned, Jess, you're sitting at threshold for 17 Ks and that's not pretty. And here we go. We've hit that undulation and as you can see, Cam at 500 watts, higher cadence, trying to spin the legs rather than go hard.
Oh, as they just hook around past the camera and there's someone's already dropped a bit of a watt bomb.
No. North and David Marinwaring held their featherweight boost for that little undulation.
Very, very clever.
So they held that little lightweight boost, which drops your kilos, your rider weight for a certain period of time so that your watts per kilo goes up.
It drops your weight 15 kilos, which is a massive amount.
So pedaling normal can go up to about 10 watts per kilo without even trying.
Imagine dropping 15 kilos.
Oh, mate.
That would be amazing.
Got to go on a diet for 6 months to drop 15 kilos. All right, so we're at 35K, so we're 2Ks away from home. We've got Cam Napa and we've got David Mainwaring and N North at the front, and they have put a gap in already. So we've got 3-man race at the front, Jess. We've got N North, David Mainwaring and Cam Napa, and then the other bunch have lost 9 seconds on the ride.
Oh, wow. So that 9 seconds could prove pivotal. There we go. We see that camera angle really shows the gap. So these three have put the hurt down, and I don't know if a bunch is going to come back to them.
No, and I put that down into using the boost. So these must be experienced Zwifters in terms of they knew when to use that boost. And David Mainwaring learnt last time to use the boost wisely and help himself up the hill because he led that boost at the front.
And remember we said that Cam Napa was sitting with a heart rate of 150. Well, look at it now, James.
173.
It's jumped right up. So he is on the river.
And if you look at David, David doesn't have his heart rate, but he's at 85. And let's see if North's got his heart rate. No, we can only see Cam Napa's heart rate.
Yeah.
So we'll stick to Cam so we can actually get a good gauge of where they are at. So we're at 36 Ks, Jess. About a K away from home. We've got that little downhill section into this part of the town.
That's where they'll really pick up some speed, and you'll see it's hard to keep the watts when you're going downhill, but I think these three are going to be able to do it.
So we've got 2 people on Trons, and we've got one on a Giant, it looked like. So we've got 2 people that have done, obviously, big Ks on Zwift, and then we've got N North on Giant.
So we've got 2 out of our 3 are not wearing heart rate monitors. I spoke about it last ride, or I said sometimes when you're in the hurt locker, you don't actually want to know that metric. You know you're hurting. You don't need a heart rate monitor to tell you.
So
you're hurting.
N North wants this, Jess. He's jumped up to 7 watts per kilo trying to get a break on these athletes. So he's trying to get a gap, but Cam Napa's bridged that gap, and so's David, so it didn't work. And we're about to hit that little downhill descent into the heart of the town, Jess. This is where David tried to break last time and jumping up to that 11 watts per kilo. So let's see what happens.
So 170 of a heart rate and fluctuating between 2 and 400 watts.
So
it's some high stuff, but we're triathlon. Do you reckon these guys could run off the bike?
Definitely. Oh, here you go. N North has jumped to 10 watts per kilo. He is gone. He's got a little gap. We've got Mainwaring and that sitting just behind him. They bridged it already. N North holding 10 watts per kilo. This is it. 9 watts per kilo. And then we've got, Mainwaring's got a little featherweight boost.
He's dropped another. Oh, he's got a great gap there. That's a little 5 minute.
And he's gone.
Prove pivotal.
We've got Cam trying to bridge back. Can they get it?
They can just see
no! Cam's taking the lead. North has come right behind, but it's Cam Napa again on the line.
Cam Napa. Backs up from the last ride to take the donut again. Amazing work, Cam Napa. He's going to be a little bit vocal about that on Facebook, I think.
Oh no! David Mainwaring and North both used featherweight boosts at the end to try and get the jump on Cam Napa, but he had the strength to be able to go for it and keep up. What a finish! That was a great finish because there was about 11 riders with 5Ks to go, Jess, and within a blink of an eye, there was only 3 of them.
So let's see if we can skip back down to a second pack. It's actually not that easy to do, but we'll see if we can find the second pack in the group through the Zwift companion app.
But big kudos out there. So Craig's obviously heard that we're We announced who won.
We got Blair Chubich, who's just crossed the line, and he is
Finished.
He's finished. He's soft pedaling.
We're just trying to ease back into the group. Who else can we see? No, Oscar Riley's
Oscar
done.
Riley is finished.
They are done. They are spent. They have done all their coins. Who else have we got? So, big shout out to our winner of the ride today, Cam Napa, who average Jess was 32.9 k's an hour for the loop for the whole ride. So that's great riding. And in the end, it came down to that final sprint again.
It came down to the final sprint, which is obviously legs, but I think there was also the other really pivotal thing at least for the three of them, was the use of that boost function as well.
We saw the boost being used twice, yes. So do you know how to get a boost in Zwift? Like, there's different ways that you can achieve unlocking boost during your ride, but David used it for climbing the hill to get that little gain of energy, and also to bridge, create a gap. But then we also had the boost on that final sprint, and we saw the likes of 12 watts per kilo. So if you're looking at 12 watts per kilo at, say, an average of let's say an 80 kilo rider, that's almost 1,000 watts.
Oh, that's a massive difference. 1,000 watts. That's
but that's after 30 to 35 k's of riding. So to produce 1,000 watts at the 35k mark is tremendous. It's good cycle legs, and again, ride 3 was a great finish and a great showing by all our riders today in our community. So again, we want to say that ride 4 is in 2 weeks' time. It is time trial. We are using the Tempest Futures course, which is again 17.6 k's of riding. It is on the 21st of June. Okay, so the 21st of June is our ride 4 in our Triathlon Australia Zwift ride series, where that's the ride where you want to come out, you want to do nothing beforehand other than a warm-up, because that is where you want to test your legs and a good indicator of where you're sitting at the time of your training block.
That's exactly right. So thank you to everyone for tuning in. We've still got a whole bunch of people who are out on course. They're coming home with the beacon. We'll see if we can swing back to our ride leader, Craig Needham. It's one of the joys of Zwift is trying to piggyback up and down the group.
But again, we had 200 plus riders on our ride today. All seem to be enjoying it, jumping on most rides. Like I said previously, we've had multiple people join us for ride 1, 2, and 3. And ride 4 isn't going to be any different, right, except for it's a little bit different format. There is no drafting in a time trial, so there is no benefits. It is you versus that clock.
That's right, and that's something when people join the event in 2 weeks' time, they will see that they will be automatically on a time trial bike. That is how the time trials are set up, and as Jason quite rightly said, there's no draft benefit. It's a race of truth. It's a race against the clock.
So yeah, so that's going to be an interesting ride, and I can't wait to bring it to you guys. And again, big shout out to our riders from Triathlon Australia: Jonathan Gorlak, Charlotte McShane, Emma Jeffcott, Marcel Walkington, Lauren Parker, Justin Godfrey. Big shout out to you guys. Thanks for joining us, and thank you to the Triathlon Australia community and all the riders out there. We'll see you on Ride 4.
See you in 2 weeks.